Today is July 19th, 2019, and I am interviewing Mr. Blair at the Newkirk Public Library. What motivated you to join the National Guard?
I was getting drafted. I'd had one pre-induction physical. In those days, it was right at the build-up of Vietnam, and they gave you 60 days after your birthday, and to take it. And then you would get notice of a pre-induction physical. So I'd had one pre-induction physical and passed. But meanwhile, the FBI had recruited me, had talked to me about being recruited, and I wanted to go to college. I told them I was going to school, so I got a student deferment for the first semester, and then I went to Washington, D.C., and went to work for the FBI. We were told in the recruitment that we'd be draft exempt. When we got out there, you had to be a GS-7 to be eligible for that, to be essential, and all of us entered at GS-4, and it took about 2 years to reach that, so they lied to all of us. There was about a dozen males in the class that I started in, and within 2 months there was only 3 of us left. And then, so I worked there for a little over 6 months, and I resigned and came home, and there was another notice waiting on me on a pre-induction physical, and I understood that there were some openings at the Ponca City Guard unit, so I went down there, and sure enough, they had some, and I signed up.
Tell me a little about your time in basic training.
It was hell. I did my basic in Fort Lewis, Washington. We got there on Valentine's Day, 1967. That's right during the rainy season. During the 10 weeks of basic that I was there, we saw the sun 8 days during that whole time, and 5 of them was when the sun dropped below the crowd level in the evening. Constantly raining, drizzling, cold, and up there when it's 40 degrees, as damp as it is and everything, it's miserable. It's cold as it is 20 degrees here. We had to wear these navy rain suits, which were rubber overalls and a foul weather coat. It was a raincoat. All of our cadre were airborne rangers, so we ran everywhere, and we would run 2 or 3 miles out to a training area. Then they'd set us down, and of course we'd be all sweaty and everything in those suits, and then we'd get chilled. The first 2 weeks, about 1/4 of the company was recycled with pneumonia, and the rest of us wouldn't go to sick call because we didn't want to get recycled. So it was a pretty miserable time. At that time, you could buy penicillin pills, and we happened to have a prescription at home, so I wrote my mom, had her send me a couple dozen penicillin pills, and so I kind of stayed alive on penicillin pills and Vicks Formula 44 cough syrup, and to keep from getting recycled. So I lasted through basic.
Where did you do your basic training?
Fort Lewis, Washington. That's at Tacoma.
What was your primary job after training?
Well, I went in as an 11 Bravo, 11B rifleman. When I got back to the unit, which was in, I think, July of '67, they were in reorganization with the 45th Division, and the first meeting I was back, they didn't have any job for me, so I drove a Jeep over to John Zink Ranch, I think, for an exercise, and I didn't really have an assignment. And then they made me a medic. I was a medic for close to a year, and then they had we became a headquarters unit. So then I was a ground surveillance radar operator for about 2 years. And one of my other MOSs, they sent me to CBR school, Chemical, Biological, and Radiological Warfare. And I became the battalion CBR NCO. And then I finished up my career about the last year and a half. I was a scout platoon squad sergeant. Scout platoon's the old rat patrol type thing, jeeps with the machine gun mounted on them and all that good stuff. So I had more MOSs than a Green Beret. I had about 5 MOSs before I got out.
Where did you serve the majority of time in service?
Well, here at home. I wasn't deployed overseas.
What rank are you most proud to have earned and why?
Well, I was an E6 staff sergeant, because that's the highest I achieved. They tried to recruit me in, re-up, and I told them if they'd give me another stripe, I'd re-up. And they didn't have a slot, so I got out.
How long was your enlistment?
6 years.
Which medals or citations are you most honored to have received and why?
Oh, of course, you get the National Defense Ribbon once you finish basic. I'd say my qualification badges. I shot expert. We had to qualify in 3 different weapons, the M14, the M14 AR, and the M60 machine gun, and I fired expert on all of them.
Tell me about some of the special people you met.
Oh, there was a lot of folks that were unique. Probably one of the most unique ones was our first sergeant. His name was Leonard Big Goose, and Leonard had been through World War II, through Korea, and he was quite a character. I mean, he knew how to survive, and he knew how to teach people to survive. He was real noteworthy. And I don't know. There was a lot of characters that I served with. Dewey Runyon was a coach at Ponca City. The Serber brothers, Joe and Hugh Serber, Paul Huska, and Joe Serber became quite noteworthy in this area in education. I don't know. There was just lots of people.
What was the best and worst military food you were served and why?
Well, it probably at basic was the worst. You could have all the food you wanted to eat, but it's pretty miserable. They must have had a contract with somebody for liver, because we ate liver once a day. Yeah. You know, even when we'd go to breakfast, if there was a big slab of meat there, you knew it was liver. And like I say, you could have all you wanted to eat, but the food wasn't very good. And then when we went to AIT down at Fort Ord, California, they had very good food, but they didn't give you much of it. So there was quite a reversal there and change in those 2 areas. Now, we had a cook in our National Guard unit. His name was Drew Little Warrior, another Indian gentleman, and he fixed really good meals. he made the best gravy I've ever eaten. I could tell you an interesting story about Drew. You talk about unique people. At summer camp, we'd spend, 2 weeks at summer camp, and I don't think Drew ever changed his T-shirt that he cooked in. And of course, like I said, he's a big Indian guy. It was kind of unique going in there for breakfast because he'd be sitting there in the cook wagon cooking breakfast, and of course it was hot. Everything, he'd be sweating and it'd be falling down the grill. We kind of had a joke going. We said, "Well, Drew's salting the eggs for us." But like I said, the food he fixed was good. you could get over the uniqueness by tasting it.
Tell me a funny story you experienced that could only happen in the military.
Probably this is what I just told you.
How does your military experience affect your life today?
Oh, I don't know that it did. I don't think much of the military. There's a simple reason. Back in those days, reservists of any kind, either enlisted reserve or National Guards, were treated really bad by the regular Army people. They belittled us and ridiculed us. We got all the bad details. It's kind of amusing. Here it is 50 years later now, and probably half of the military is now activated reserve components at any one time. We were called draft dodgers. One drill sergeant said that the reservists were just draft dodgers that were too lazy to go to Canada, and things like that. And then, not reference to me, but they treated my son really bad when he was in the service and gave him a discharge they didn't deserve. My mother-in-law, the VA, has cheated her out probably close to $500,000 in pension benefits. So I'm not real strong on the military, quite frankly.
Are there any other stories or facts you'd like to add?
Not really. Like I said, it was a unique experience. I'm glad I did what I did, the way I did, because the main thing I just wanted to finish school. Probably if they'd left me alone till I got my degree, I might have even volunteered. But, at that time, everybody was being pursued. When we were in basic, there were people that were 35, 36 years old that had gotten drafted. They were just gathering everybody up. And some of them, had health problems and things like that, but they just washed them right on through.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.